like and leave a heart, please.
There we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Vidor Locksmith Show. I'm your host, David Gibson. Broadcasting live from Anchorage, Alaska, bringing you the secrets to success in the oil and gas industry. One interview, one technical presentation, and one technical screw-up at a time. Today's technical screw-up, we've hopefully already got past most of it. Luckily, we have the amazing Tracy behind the scenes being able to run the show for us today. Because the Airbnb that I'm at here in Anchorage, Alaska, I guess ran out of IP addresses for my computer to be able to connect to. So I couldn't be the one to be able to connect. So hopefully my phone stays charged and we're able to get all the way through this without any more hiccups. So thank you guys all for tuning in today. Do appreciate it. It's a little early in the morning here, but that's quite all right. Normally not doing the show this early in the morning. We've got an amazing show for you guys. This is the last show of the year. So really excited about that, to be able to finish out the year and then be able to start back next year with a whole new lineup of guests that are going to be coming out. We'll be sharing that probably here pretty shortly. But as for now, guys, go ahead and let me know where you guys are watching from. Love to be able to give you guys a shout out here on the screen. I'm not sure if I'm going to even be able to see them. And then I can't even do the thing that I normally do. Well, Abraham, who is here on the show today, good morning. So glad to have him here watching with us. I don't know if we'll have any more other comments or anything. I'm still getting used to being on this side of it. Okay, chat with everyone in the studio. Okay, all right. Well, I mean, it seems to be working. So if we run into any other glitches, guys, please let us know. If you guys can't hear me or anything like that, that's also a good thing to be able to let me know. All right, so here we go. Pradeep says, good morning from Austin. Looking forward to the presentation. Excellent. Eric, as always, tuning in from sunny south of France, as usual. Yes, that's absolutely, I mean, one of these days we just need to do an episode from there. And Michael said, evening from Abu Dhabi. So, we've definitely got the globe covered this morning. Oh, Mr. K. Jackson tuning in from Dripping Springs. Man, he never tunes into the show. So that's awesome to have him joining in. Tuning in from warm and sunny KL. Man, a lot of places that I'd love to be able to be. Maybe not Dripping. I get to be there next to that one all the time. So, all right, guys. Thank you guys. Like I said, thank you guys all for tuning in. Be sure to just leave a comment on today's show. I don't have any of the giveaway stuff with me, but on today's episode, oh, there we go. We can put hashtag Gibson or hashtag just about anything. Just because we said if you comment, you get entered in for your chance to be able to win. And I'll make it special this time. We'll give away a 3D printed drill bit. We'll send you a hat. We'll send you a shirt. We'll send you, well, I don't know if I have any shirts left. I'll definitely send you a hat. We'll send you a bottle of barbecue sauce and a bottle of the brisket rub. So how about that? We'll make it worth it. You might even throw in some extra stuff. Whatever we got laying around the office, it's considered swag. We'll make sure everybody gets. Well, whoever wins today, we'll make sure they get something good. All right, Miss John DeWart tuning in. Good morning from very cold Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. Absolutely amazing. And this is Borna. Good evening from Stavanger. All right. And then we've got everybody else putting in hashtag Gibson. There we go. All right. All right. Well, without any further ado, we'll go ahead and bring on our guest of the day, Mr. Abraham Montes. Abraham, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you, David. Thank you very much for having me on the show.
It's an absolute pleasure. I wish I could have been there in town. Had some extenuating circumstances, had to come up here to see some of the guys up here in Alaska. But do appreciate you being here on the show today.
Absolutely. I'm thrilled.
All right. So I know you got a presentation for us. We'll go ahead and I don't know if you've already shared it because I'm not running all the behind the scenes stuff, but if you'll go ahead and share that, and then Tracy can get it ready to be able to throw up there on the screen. But in the meantime, if you could tell us a little bit about what you're going to be presenting about today.
So today's presentation will be about a system that we have developed at the University of Texas for assessing hole cleaning sufficiency and wellbore stability. Yeah, the presentation is quite large, so I'm going to have to share the screen instead of the file.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay.
And Tracy, you'll see the little box down there at the bottom, and it'll look like one of our pictures, and if you just click it, it'll go up there to the screen. So while we're waiting on that, I'd love to be able to get everybody that is watching asking them what their favorite Vidor Locksmith episode of this year was. I know we've had a lot of really good shows, a lot of really good guests. You could even pick this one. You could say, with the short time that Abraham's already been on the screen, you could still say this one was your favorite of the year. So just let us know in the chat. We'd love to be able to see that. I'd have to say one of my favorites was being able to get being able to finally get Paul Pastusik on the show after 5 years, 6 years of chasing it. It was a great moment. So I saw it pop up there. I guess we're just about ready to go. All right, Kay Jackson says Pastusik. Oh, that was a good one.
Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you'll go ahead and put it into presentation mode, then it'll go full screen there.
Oh,
it's gone again.
okay.
Or if you just click the read view when it gets up like that, it'll make it full screen, but it won't put it onto two different ones. John Dahl says, yes, Polly Pastusik was a great one. We called him that. There we go.
There we go. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Okay, so we're ready
All right,
to go.
Abraham, we'll go ahead and let you take it, and Tracy, you can take me off screen here.
Okay. Okay, thank you again, David, for having me on the show. I'm thrilled to be here. This presentation will be about our RAPID cutting sensor, which is a new tool for hole cleaning and wellbore stability monitoring. I'm Abraham Montes. I'm a third-year PhD candidate at the University of Texas, and this will be the agenda for this presentation. I'll start with the motivation. I'll then talk about previous solutions for cuttings characterization. I'll then introduce our solution, which has two components: the sensor and the method that we use to leverage the data collected with the sensor. I'll then talk about deployments of this system. I'll briefly touch on next steps. I'll go to the conclusions, and finally, I'll open space for questions and discussion. And so let me start with the motivation. So as you know, traditionally, we characterize cuttings and cavings manually. And we do this because we want to assess hole cleaning sufficiency. We want to know if we're effectively evacuating the cuttings that we generate with the bit out of the hole, and we want to assess wellbore stability. We want to know if the rock is undergoing failure and why. But the problem with this traditional approach is that it doesn't happen in real time. And because of this, we are unable to assess hole cleaning sufficiency and wellbore stability in real time. And therefore, whenever a deficiency occurs with these things, whenever we have wellbore instability or insufficient wellbore hole cleaning, then we can take remedial actions in a timely manner, and this ultimately leads to inefficiency and non-productive time. And in fact, when we look at the division of the time and cost of well construction, we can see that ILT, or inefficiency and non-productive time, constitute a significant fraction of this cost. And in fact, the literature says that wellbore instability and hole cleaning insufficiency account for 60 to 85% of all stuck pipe incidents across the drilling industry. And this represents a significant amount of money. Here we're talking about more than $1 billion per year across the entire drilling industry. And it is because the keyword here is real time. It is because we can't characterize cuttings and cavings in real time that we end up with this impact. Furthermore, we see this as a crucial step towards hole cleaning automation. We can't manage what we can't measure, right? So let me now talk about limitations of previous solutions for this real-time automatic characterization of drilling solids. So there are mainly two limitations. The first one is associated with the characterization of cavings, because none of the available solutions has demonstrated capability of detecting and thoroughly characterizing cavings. And when I say thoroughly, I mean their dimensions, their morphology, and their volume, which of course are crucial things if we want to thoroughly evaluate wellbore stability. And second, most of these solutions rely on 2D images collected with cameras that point at the shell shakers. And the problem with this approach is, first of all, there are certain aspects of the environment that can negatively affect the quality of the collected data. For example, variations of lighting during the day or splashing with the drilling fluid. Also, the presence of mud can be detrimental for the identification of individual cuttings, especially in cases like the one we see here on the right, where the cuttings and the drilling fluid are the same color, just low contrast. Also, 2D images convey limited information about the height of the cutting stream, and therefore we can't use it to accurately estimate the volume of the cutting stream. And ultimately, it all boils down to none of these solutions being fully automated. They require substantial human intervention. So let me now talk about our solution. But before I go to that, I'd like to state that it's been a long journey to get to the point where we are right now. And I'd like to briefly touch on the previous prototypes that we tried at the University of Texas. First of all, we tried cameras pointing at the shakers, as you see here on top. But again, we identified that these images convey limited information about the height of the cutting stream and therefore can't be used to estimate volume. Then we decided to incorporate a laser scanner, and we mounted the laser scanner alongside the camera on a metallic frame, which you see here on the right. And these, both the laser scanner and the camera process the cuttings and cavings as they slid through this ramp. And in fact, we took this prototype to the field. You can see some images here below. But again, we identified various limitations. First of all, we can't use data, just sole data from the cameras to estimate volume. The camera became blurred and dirty. The quality of the data was affected by sunlight interference. Even though we incorporated this laser scanner, we had some trouble estimating the volume of cuttings because of the fact that these cuttings move at a non-uniform speed over this ramp. There was splashing with the drilling fluid, etc. And so all these limitations and all these lessons learned motivated the development of our current prototype, which you can see on the right, and that for all the Star Wars fans out there, looks like an AT-AT robot used for war, right? So here you can see a schematic of the sensor, of how the sensor works. So here we have the shale shaker dumping cuttings and cavings into the sensor. The sensor has a conveyor belt that transports these solids throughout the sensor as they are processed by the 3D laser scanner and a high definition camera, meaning that we collect both 2D images and 3D data, meaning that we are actually measuring the height of the cutting stream and therefore can use the data for estimating the volume of the cutting stream. And the sensor is fully enclosed, meaning that we control the light environment. There's no sunlight interference. We also control the speed at which the cuttings move inside the sensor. There's no splashing. There's an anti-splashing design, and we don't require modifications for to adapt this for a specific rig. This means that we have a full control over the environment and therefore address the limitations I mentioned in the previous slides. So that would be the first component of our system. Now, the second component is, as I mentioned, the method that we use to leverage both 3D and 2D data. And we use this data to estimate four things: the volume of cuttings and cavings, their proportion, their size distribution, and their shape distribution. So I'd like to now talk about these four things. I'd like to start with volume, but before I go to that, I'd like to make an announcement, and it's that this method that I will describe in the next few slides has been published as an open access article in the SPE journal under this code. And at the end of the presentation, I'll provide you with a QR code you can scan to download this paper completely for free, and I highly encourage you to go check it out. So for volume estimation, here you can see an initial estimation of the volume. On the left, you can see a video of a cutting stream being processed by the sensor. Here you can see the line laser scanner. And you can think of this as multiple snapshots of the top profile of the cutting stream that are very close in time. We add them together and we obtain the accumulated volume that you see on the right. And this initial estimation of volume works very well when the cuttings are somehow sparse on the belt, but it requires a certain adjustment when the cuttings are stacked, which is not an uncommon thing to see in the field. So to fully characterize cuttings and cavings, including the case wherein they are stacked, we have developed this method, which is summarized in this schematic. You can see that it has three parts. In the first one, we characterize cuttings and cavings. In the second one, we estimate the volume. In the third one, we finally obtain an assessment of the wellbore condition. And so in the first part, you can see that there are two branches. One of the branches deals with 2D images collected with a high definition camera, and the second branch deals with 3D data. Each branch undergoes a process that consists of pre-processing steps, segmentation, and morphological characterization. And don't worry about this terminology. I'll explain what these are in the next slides. But importantly, at the end of this first part, we obtain the size and shape distribution of cuttings and cavings. You can also see that the 3D data is used to estimate an initial raw volume of the cutting stream, which is basically what I showed in the previous slide. It's basically adding the top profile of the cutting streams together. And again, that requires a certain adjustment when the cuttings are stacked. And then let me tell you why. Here's an example where the cuttings are stacked. And here you can see the top profile of the cutting stream. And the problem with this top profile is that it doesn't account for the void space among the cuttings, right? So if we rely solely on this raw volume for estimating the volume of the cutting stream, then we would be overestimating the volume of cuttings, and we could create a false sensation of effective hole cleaning and lead to stuck pipe incidents, which we don't want to happen. So that's why this raw volume requires an adjustment. And it turns out that such an adjustment is a function of the size and shape distribution of the cuttings. That's why you see that the output of the first part in this method goes as an input to the second part to obtain a corrected volume. Once we have this corrected volume, we can go ahead and compare that against the expected volume coming from a transient cuttings transfer model, and finally obtain an assessment of the wellbore condition. So let me now talk about four crucial points in this methodology. I'll show you the capabilities of the models that we have developed so far, and then I'll show you how we have deployed this in the field. So the first component I'd like to talk about is the identification of drilling fluid. So we have created models based on computer vision techniques that are capable of distinguishing between these four conditions. The ones on top have no cuttings at all, although the one on the right has some mud stains that resemble cuttings, and the ones below have stacked cuttings. And the one, particularly this one that I'm pointing at right now, has excessive mud content in the sample. This would be a condition in which the shakers are not functioning in an optimal way. So why do we want to distinguish between these four things? So basically because we want to avoid spurious cuttings and cavings. We want to avoid basically this situation, which you see here, in which the model confuses some of the mud stains on the sides of the sample with cuttings, you can see that the dimensions of these mud stains is significantly different than those of the cuttings. And therefore, if we include this in the size distribution estimation, that would negatively affect that estimation. So that's why we want to identify when we have no cuttings at all and when we have these mud stains in the sample, so that we can better differentiate and we can better basically take them apart and not include them in the size distribution estimation. And it all boils down to obtaining an accurate volume, because as I mentioned in the methodology, the size distribution is ultimately used to correct the raw volume for the void space among the cuttings. So at the end, we do this because we want to have an accurate volume estimation. The second point here is segmentation. And what that means is basically identifying each individual solid in both the images and the 3D data. So on top, you can see an example where the model has accurately identified individual cuttings when they're stacked and dry. But in the one below, you can also see that the model is capable of identifying individual cuttings when there's excessive mud content in the sample. Importantly, you can also see that the model does not confuse any of the mud stains on the sides of the sample with cuttings, which again, as I mentioned in the previous slide, is crucial for obtaining an accurate estimate of the size distribution. Now, in that example, all the cuttings are approximately the same size, but we have also developed models that are capable of identifying cavings. So here we have an example where we have some cavings lying on top of a cuttings bed. You can see that they are approximately the same color, and the size of the cavings is not too different than the cuttings. And on the right, you can see that the model not only identifies individual cavings, but also the region of the image that corresponds to the cuttings bed. This is very important because this allows us to estimate a cuttings to cavings ratio, which we then use to have an estimate of the cavings volume, which again is crucial for diagnosing wellbore instability. You can also see here that the model identifies different classes of cavings related to different morphologies, which allows us to make analysis of rock failure mechanisms in real time. And then once we have identified individual solids, we go ahead and fit ellipses to each of them. And we use the dimensions of these ellipses as proxies for the dimensions of the cuttings, which allows us to obtain the size distribution like the one we see on the right. We also use the eccentricity of these ellipses and the remaining area between each ellipse and each individual cutting as proxies for the circularity and angularity of these cuttings. Okay, so here you can see that we make a full morphological description of the cuttings and cavings by just fitting these ellipses once we have identified each of them. And again, this is important because it allows us to make analysis of rock failure mechanisms in real time. But it is also important, and as I mentioned in the methodology, because these are inputs to correct the raw volume for the void space among the cuttings. Now, we have developed a function that takes those inputs, the size and shape distribution of cuttings and cavings, and generates the required correction to the raw volume. I'm not going to go through the details of this function in this presentation, but I highly encourage you to go check it out in this publication, which again is available for free, and I'll provide you with a QR code at the end. But I'd like to mention the accuracy of this methodology. So we have, what you see here is the empirical error distribution that we obtained by comparing the actual volume of cuttings samples against the estimated volume using our methodology. And you can see that the 90th percentile of this error distribution is only 6%, which indicates that this is a reliable method that can be used to assess whole cleaning sufficiency and wellbore stability. And we have compiled all these functionalities into a real-time application, which displays the following results. So on the left, you can see the 2D images of the cuttings stream passing through the sensor. In this track, you can see the mud content. So you can see right now we have wet cuttings passing through the sensor. Specifically, we have excessive mud content in the sample. The next track shows the predominant shape in terms of angularity. The histograms on top show the size and shape distribution of the cutting stream, including the angularity and the circularity. And the tracks below show the 50th percentile of these distributions. So let me pause here for a second and wrap it up. So I've shown you the two components of our system, the sensor and the methodology we use to leverage the data collected with the sensor. And again, we have compiled this into a real-time application. But now let me show you how we have deployed this in the field. So the first deployment was in a well in West Texas. Here you can see some images on the left of how the sensor was deployed in the field. And on the right, you can see a plot that compares the estimated volume using the sensor and the simulated volume of cuttings using a transient cuttings transport model. And you can see that they match really well. Now, the second deployment is very recent. This is a deployment we did during the summer. So you can see here, I didn't spend the summer in warm Texas. It was in the north of Germany, in Lower Saxony. And then here you can see the 4 shale shakers of this rig. And on the right, you can see that the sensor was deployed inside a catch tank. And you can see that there's a trough that basically collects all the cuttings and cavings that are dumped from the shakers and transports them using an auger system, which I will show in the next slide, towards this end where they are dumped into the sensor. Okay, so here you can see a better image of what that auger looks like. Basically, and again, all the cuttings and cavings are dumped into this trough, and the auger takes them to this end, and they are here dumped into the sensor. And again, the sensor has a conveyor belt that transports them towards this end where they are finally dumped into the catch tank. And the camera and the laser scanner would be right here inside the enclosure. And again, on the left, you can see how the auger system is working. In this tests in Germany, we drilled through chalk and marl in a slim hole section, 5 7/8. And then we did a second test through limestone and marl in an 8.5 inches hole section. We had very similar ROPs, slightly different flow rates. And we used, for the slim hole section, it was a mud motor, it was an RSS BHA with a power section on top. And then for the 8.5 inches hole section, it was a mud motor BHA. And both sections were drilled with PDC bits. We used a water-based mud, polymeric water-based mud, 9.9 ppg. And on the right, you can see an image of the dried cuttings, and here an image of how the cuttings looked like when they were being processed by the sensor. This is an image that shows the data we were collecting in real time. On top, you can see the 2D images. Below, you can see the reconstructed profile. The vertical axis here would be the height dimension. There would be the Z dimension right here. And then this would be the dimension across the belt. So this would be basically the profile, the top profile of the cutting stream passing through the sensor. And on the right, you can see 4 columns. The last of these columns is basically the volume of this cutting stream already corrected for the void ratio by implementing our methodology. Here is another example. And again, here we can see the 2D images of what was passing through the sensor, the reconstructed 3D profile, and the volume estimation. And I really like this picture because, as you see here, even though we had this condition in which the cuttings were wet, in which the shakers were not functioning in an optimal way, you can see that the segmentation models are able to identify a representative sample of the cuttings, both in the 2D data, as you see here on the left, and in the 3D data, as you see on the right. And again, this is very important because this is the base for estimating the size shape distribution and therefore for obtaining an accurate estimate of the volume. So what are the next steps? So the proposed method is currently being updated. It's been upgraded with state-of-the-art computer vision models that have been recently released by Meta in August 2024. So this is work we're currently doing to make it even more accurate. Even though it's already accurate, and you can see in these images it's working perfectly, we're making it even more accurate. We're also working on coupling this characterization solution with a real-time transient cuttings transfer model, so that we can display in the real-time application also whether we have hole clean insufficiency and whether we have wellbore instability problems. We're also discussing the construction of a second prototype for additional tests in the US and in the North Sea. So stay tuned for these tests. And also we are having discussions on the commercialization of the solution. So let me go to the conclusions. So we have developed a method that determines the volume and the morphological characteristics of cuttings and cavings. It is not limited to the case in which the shakers operate in an optimal fashion. As you could see, it can also work. It also works very good when we have wet cuttings and when they're stacked. And even in these challenging conditions I showed, where we were drilling through marl and chalk in Slime Hole, the tool can actually provide us with morphological characterization of the solids. This information, as I mentioned, is crucial for diagnosing wellbore instability and poor hole cleaning. And more importantly, this is a significant milestone in drilling automation. And let me tell you why. Because now we are getting rid of the stopper, this stopper in the arrow. Now we can have the characterization of solids in real time, and therefore we can use it to take remedial actions in a timely manner and prevent stuck pipe incidents. The sensor can process a cuttings load equivalent to drilling through a 14 3/4 inches hole section at 500 feet per hour, which is a huge volume of cuttings. This includes an overgauge of 30%, this estimate. The sensor can be deployed in a rig with very minor modifications. Here you can see two examples. One we deployed in West Texas, and here's another deployment in Ansbach, Germany. And we can divert the cuttings and cavings coming from all the shakers to the sensor, for example, using the auger system that we implemented in Germany. And we currently have one prototype. It's located in Germany, but it can be replicated for additional deployments. And this would be a process that would take us 3 months and will cost approximately $50,000, which is much less than what we typically pay for a rig rate. Thank you very much. That's the end of my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions.
Awesome job. Yeah, so we've already got a couple of questions. Oh, there goes my phone moving. All right, here's one from Cade. As you drill deeper in the horizontal well, your cutting sizes changes due to the time the cuttings spend in the hole. The cuttings tend to look like coffee grounds coming over the shakers. How does this affect the accuracy of your model and the ability to detect cuttings?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. So we actually have identified the models are capable of distinguishing a representative sample of the solids, even when they are 1 millimeter, when their size is 1 millimeter. If we go below 1 millimeter, then we would start having troubles, but that's why we're upgrading our models with state-of-the-art computer vision techniques, basically to target those very, very, very fine cuttings. But as you could see, the test that we recently conducted in Germany, we had very small cuttings, and the models accurately identify a representative sample.
All right. Next one here from King. How robust is the cuttings volume correction based on image laser profile and model for the corrected volume? The degree of error or variance impacts the ultimate hole cleaning efficiency.
Yeah, thank you. So as I showed in the empirical error distribution, the 90th percentile, right? So it's like the highest error that we will have, not the highest, but almost the highest error that we will have is only 6%. This is an empirical error distribution with constructed in the lab. and we are currently testing it in the field to measure its accuracy with actual cuttings. But 60% indicates that this is actually a reliable method to correct and estimate the volume of the cutting stream.
This one's asking, Robert asks, how does your method compare with the video method of Kovar?
I'm not familiar with Kovar's method, but if it is a video method that only relies on 2D cameras, as I mentioned, the key difference is that we not only have 2D images, but also 3D data. And we think that's crucial for having an accurate estimate of volume. With just 2D data alone, it will not be possible because 2D images convey limited information about the height of the cutting string passing either through a sensor or through the shale shakers.
Excellent. Eric says $50,000 is far less money spent because of getting stuck.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've personally experienced stuck pipe events that end up in, I don't know, $10 million overspent because we have to drill a sidetrack. So it's really much less money than what a stuck pipe incident costs, definitely.
John DeWar says, what new technologies, software and hardware, are in the pipeline that could further enhance your measurement system? Great question.
Yeah, so I mentioned we're upgrading our computer vision models with a very recent release from Meta. That's basically a convolutional autoencoder. It's a computer vision model, very robust, trained across a huge data set with millions of images. And we are basically retraining it with our own data set. And that's one of the things. That's one of the key things. Unfortunately, the artificial intelligence field is evolving very fastly. So that's one of the key things. And sensor-wise, even though we have a very robust laser scanner, that is also evolving. So we believe that incorporating a new laser scanner would also benefit the development of this technology.
So what's the time delay on being able to, from when the cuttings are actually taking place to it getting back to surface? Because obviously that's going to affect any automation or real-time decision making.
Yeah, so there's definitely going to be a lag time, and that's where the transient cuttings transfer model comes into play, so that we can estimate when the cuttings that we cut are reaching the surface and what are we measuring, how that compares to the depth we're drilling and the formation we're drilling.
So is there a way then because y'all are looking at those volumes and starting to get better, essentially just more data, looking at what's come out of the hole and then being able to, like you said, look at when that took place, can then you then start to make correlations to the sensors that are taking place in real time to be able to say, okay, here was some anomaly either on torque or weight on bit or differential pressure, something that took place in real time, but then after the fact we're able to measure a jump in hole cleaning, or just I guess cuttings, I should say.
Yeah.
Have y'all been able to make any correlations there?
I love that question because that touches on another of my research projects as a PhD student at UT, which I would love to present in this show as well, which is stuck pipe prediction. So one of the things I'm doing right now is to incorporating what we have with the sensor into the stuck pipe prediction model, which, as you know, I presented at ATC 2023. So that's on my current work. And we definitely think there's value in having those kind of correlations, like the one you mentioned. So we identified there's an increase in the volume rate of cuttings versus did we have a torque spike, for example? Can we correlate that torque spike with this increase in volume?
And is there any work being done to not to automate mud logging, but to be able to look at the the type of rocks that are coming across. Does that have any effect?
We think this is the natural evolution of this system. This is where we see this going. That's not something that we are currently working on, but we think that's part of the future development of this tool. I know there are some people working on, for example, X-ray tools to have real-time lithological interpretation, but that is not something that we currently have in this sensor. But it could be adapted to have that functionality as well.
That's amazing. And so obviously you guys have got a lot of projects going on, because this makes me think of one of the mud skid, and knowing, if y'all can do the volumetrics of what's coming out a hole, measure it, then you can almost figure out what went into the mud, and then be able to throw that in with the information from the mud skid. Is this something that you guys are looking at as a complete ecosystem of all of these different items being able to talk to each other and be able to gain insights? Because, so many of these things haven't been digitized in the past, are now starting to be digitized, and being able to better understand how each one of them affect the other.
Yeah, definitely. So that would be closing the loop. And again, we're starting with the stock pipe prediction model, but that's not the only one. And we also have other projects going on. This one, for example, for automatically mixing the mud in the tanks, just by having the information from the mud skid that you mentioned. So there are various projects that intend to close the loop, as you mentioned. Yeah.
All right, I'm asking questions, and now I'm getting behind on some of the other questions that were on here. Kovar uses multiple video cameras to get 3D. You should talk to their CEO, Mark Hibbard. Oh, Kovar.
Okay.
Is it Kovar or Kovar?
Kovar?
Kovar,
Yeah.
Kovar. I don't. Get in touch with Robert. He'll get you in touch with them. Apparently, Mark Hibbard, the guy to talk to. All right.
Yeah, but something I'd like to mention on that is that our sensor is fully enclosed, and one problem that has been identified in very recent publications on systems that work with 2D cameras is that they become blurred very frequently, and they become dirty, and they are affected by sunlight. So variations of light during the day really affect the quality of the data and the estimates. That's one thing that we are not concerned about, because the sensor is fully enclosed.
Yeah, I think when y'all originally posted on this, because it was y'all had to put the fan on there because the hot cuttings were coming out and then fogging up the lens.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, Dr. C here. How does the model predict the differential pipe sticking? I assume that the stuck pipe is referring to wellbore, is referring to cuttings situation in the wellbore.
Okay, I love that question too. That's going into my other research. Yeah, so this system that I presented today is just for hole cleaning sufficiency and wellbore stability. Now, differential sticking is another component, which is in a bigger model for stuck pipe prediction, which I would love to present about. I really hope I have the opportunity. But basically, it's another entire module that does not incorporate the information from the sensor.
Yeah, and then Dr. C asked the same question I asked just a second ago. How do you compensate for the time delay for cuttings reaching the surface?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, that's where we use the transient cuttings transfer model to have an accurate estimate of the lag time and when the cuttings we're generating reach the surface and reach the sensor.
All right, Eric. What next X-ray diffraction to analyze the cuttings? What's next? I guess.
I'm not sure I understand the question, but so I know for sure that there are there's some research efforts towards that side, towards having X-ray diffraction for lithological identification in real time. That is not something that the sensor currently incorporates, but we believe that's the natural step for future research. Yes.
All right. This looks awesome, Abraham. Nevertheless, cost effective, and with this prediction, there could be a seamless process, not just while drilling, but after TD running casing with a very efficient wellbore clean out system.
Yeah, I agree, and thank you for bringing that up. So in Stavanger next year, I'll be presenting a very exciting paper about casing runnability and how we predict casing readiness for borehole readiness to accept casing. And there we incorporate data about accumulated cuttings and hole cleaning sufficiency. So thank you for bringing that up, and stay tuned.
All right. Another question here from Cade. Was this data used to sorry, data used to be in operational decision making to spend more or less time circulating rather than relying on rules of thumb for circulating the whole clean prior to making a trip? If so, how did the time to clean the hole compare to what was previously being done?
Yeah, thank you. Not yet. That's what we are targeting right now. So far, we've been testing this in the field in the sense of comparing the estimated volume versus the actual volume, and the estimated morphology versus the actual morphology. But the next step would be to actually incorporate the trenching cuttings transfer models. I mentioned in the next step slides, that's something we're currently working on, so that we can compare volumes and then establish whether hole cleaning is sufficient and we have to circulate no more and can trip out of the hole, or if we have to spend more time circulating and evacuating cuttings.
Fantastic. Eric, are you working with other specialists using mass balance to optimize solid control?
Not right now. There was a former PhD student here at UT Austin that developed a trenching cuttings transfer model, and that's the model we're currently using. But not in addition to that.
Have you sought or are you seeking a patent on your method?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We have already applied for it. Yes.
Excellent.
It's currently being evaluated.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Benga says, Gabian Abraham.
Yeah, thank you. Really appreciate it.
Rich said, interesting topic this morning, David from Houston. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you and the family. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Titus, great presentation, Abraham. What is the lowest particle / cutting size the model can capture? I'm wondering how the prediction would be when barite sag is present.
Yeah, so the minimum size would be 1 millimeter. Although we're targeting smaller sizes with the new model, but that's something we're currently testing. But so far, 1 millimeter would be the size. So much larger. But much larger than barite.
Yes. And then Eric says circulation time is always shaker clean for 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's the rule
of thumb that we were talking about. And then Robert put in there. There's so it's Kovar Tech. There's the guy to be able to get in touch with.
Thank you very much.
All right, interesting topic. Could you characterize the cavings / cuttings mineralogy to identify their origin and which formation?
Yeah, so that, as I mentioned, I know it's current work. We are not currently incorporating X-ray diffraction or any technology to identify mineralogy or lithological information, but that would be a natural step. Yes.
So a question there. Well, let's put season's greetings, everyone. David and Abraham, thanks for a great show. One question is there. So obviously there at UT, y'all have the RAPID Consortium. What can somebody do if they want to be able to work with you guys? Not just, I know that there's companies that will fund these projects, but what if there's something that you guys are working on, and they're interested in being able to trial or test it with you, or be able to help supply data, or maybe even want to hire one of you guys at some point in time? What's the process of being able to get involved with you and the team there at UT working on rapid projects?
Yeah, thank you very much. So we're actively looking for additional tests and for data to do amazing things in research. And definitely the first step would be to contact both Dr. Perry Bashak and Dr. Eric Van Oort, and any of us in the group, and we can have a further discussions on how this collaboration can go. But definitely we're open for collaborations with the industry.
What would be your ideal next test? Like if you could pick how everything goes at the rig, what would you test at the rig site? What all would take place?
Yeah, so what I would like to see is for the driller to have a screen that tells them the hole's not clean or the hole's clean based on actual data collected with the sensor, based on reliable measurement of the volume stream, of the cutting stream volume. Or here you're having splintery cavings, so you rather increase the mud weight. So this entire closing the loop and having this system and AI tools actually inform decisions and being used to make decisions towards not having stuck pipe incidents.
All right. Question here from Juan. In the scenario of being in the lateral, drilling with a water-based mud, not having a strong yield point property within the mud system, which will be having cuttings flocculating, I've never even seen that word, to the bottom of the vertical / curve.
Yeah, so it's more of a technical question, but definitely if we don't have sufficient yield point, yield stress, and drilling fluid, and we're drilling lateral, cuttings are going to form a cuttings bed in the low side of the borehole in the lateral section, definitely, unless we implement pipe rotation and pump them with a good flow rate. But likely they're going to form a cuttings bed in the low side, yes. And that we're going to detect with the sensor, because we're generating a cuttings volume that we're not evacuating, that we're not measuring on surface. So we would be able to tell by implementing this system that those cuttings are staying in the borehole in the form of a cuttings bed.
So what would you do in the instance of if you're getting out, or you're setting this up on location, or you're having to go from one run to the next, where there may have already been a lot of either cuttings already in the hole? Could that affect the data on as you start to drill the second run, or the first time in hole? Would that have any substantial impact on what you guys are measuring?
No, so it should definitely be deployed from the very beginning of the borehole section, so that it accounts for everything, right? Including those cuttings that we estimate are remaining in the borehole. If not, if we deploy it, say, after we have drilled a certain fraction of the borehole, then we could definitely use, for example, information from a trenching cuttings transfer model to correlate, or to establish a correlation between what may be in the borehole or not. Yeah.
Okay. Final comment here from Robert says differential cuttings volume in and out of well in real time is valuable.
And something that we don't commonly have.
That's true. All right, Abraham, thank you so much for being on the show today, sir. I really do appreciate it.
I do appreciate the opportunity. Thank you very much, David.
Hey, we'll definitely have to have you come back on and do some more talks about the stuck pipe prediction, or any of the other items that you guys are working on there at Rapid. We've already had Pradeep and Eric on the show now, so I guess we just need to walk around the halls there and see who else is working with you guys, and have them come on the show as well.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And then Eric says about cutting bed and the need for it drilling. CF Gibson report number 42 with Fred Dupreece. Okay, I guess that was the references some of the stuff that Fred was talking about there. All right, well, I guess we're getting ready to be able to do the giveaway. If you guys haven't already, be sure to just leave a comment. Like, you could literally just type anything on your keyboard and press the enter button. Yeah, you could type in, like Armin just said, you could just say Longhorns, you know, whatever nonsense you want to put into the comment section will get you entered in for the drawing today. And then, yeah, so we'll go ahead and have, if Tracy, if you'll go ahead and pull it up. All right, we'll see who the final winner of the year is. My eyesight is way too, I cannot see it. Maybe if I try to zoom in here. No, can't do it. All right, go ahead and hit the drawing button. This is our final winner of the year. Oh, and I saw Tracy's name popped up there. So if she wins, we'll definitely have to do this again. She's oh, Eric. Eric's won before. He wins again. Eric, thank you so much for tuning into the show. Him and John DeWar, Robert Assis are a couple of the people that are always watching the show. I immensely appreciate you guys and y'all's support. Everybody watching the show, you know, you guys could be watching Netflix, Hulu, just about anything else, and y'all are here watching this. Another one there from Daryl Chicken says, "Go Horns!" So, Abraham, thank you so much for being here and doing this. I should be in Norway. I don't see any reason why I wouldn't be there. So I'll be more than happy to be able to come and see your presentation that you do there. For everybody else out there, have a safe and happy holidays, Merry Christmas, New Year, everything else. This is the last live stream. I'm going to go have fun here in the snow in Anchorage, Alaska. Tracy, thank you so much for running the show today. We're still trying to, I commented a little bit while Abraham was there, still trying to get the internet thing to work. Couldn't get it done. But thank you guys all so much. We'll be back again next year with some awesome episodes. If you want to sponsor the Vidor Locksmith Show, please reach out and get in touch with me. We do not have a sponsor lined up for next year, and we've got some awesome shows coming. So that's it for me. Thank you guys so much. As always, know your industry.